Former bantamweight champion TJ Dillashaw has just announced his retirement, and it's gotten really interesting reactions from fighters. Cody Garbrandt called TJ out for his past steroid usage, while Aljamain the Funk Master Sterling told him a second smoke sesh will always be waiting for him. A lot of fighters think he's announced his retirement to exit the USADA pool and have a quicker recovery. Keep watching this video for more on the story. First up, a lot of history. Cody and Dillashaw go way back. Both gentlemen have a lot of history, having spent time as teammates, rival coaches on The Ultimate Fighter, and opponents inside the cage. TJ managed to subdue No Love both times they fought, but the latter always accused the former champion of taking steroids. It was super ironic since about a year later, Dillashaw was suspended for taking performance enhancers. And after a short-lived title shot against Aljamain Sterling at UFC 280, the 36-year-old has decided it's time to hang up the gloves. Lieutenant Dan claims he dislocated his shoulder at least 20 times in training prior to the matchup, and on the night of action we saw it pop out again when he and Sterling went crashing to the mats. But regardless of all that, Cody still isn't willing to put aside the fact that he cheated on the sport by taking steroids and called him out on Instagram after he announced his retirement. Can't compete like a real man, had y'all fooled for years. He's still petty over how he used EPOs while competing, and if we're being honest, it's not really that surprising, considering TJ and Cody have faced off twice, with a 36-year-old winning on both occasions. The first time these two gentlemen fought, Dan stole the belt off of him and then successfully defended in their very next meeting. And the fact that he was on performance enhancers the entire time probably messes with Garbrandt a lot, since it's almost as if Dillashaw toyed with his legacy. Next, a second sesh will always be available. Aljamain's reaction wasn't as harsh as Cody's, but it seems like there's something else going on behind the scenes here. Is TJ pulling off another Connor here? You know, exiting the USADA pool to take enhancements to help him heal quicker? We'll get to all that in a bit, but if that really is the case, then Sterling is completely fine with it. Whatever he needs to do to get back to 100% is fine in my book. It sort of makes sense now why everyone is questioning his intentions. It's a really abrupt retirement, since we thought he still wanted to go the distance and fight a few more times. The Funk Master was the 36-year-old's last opponent, but it doesn't have to be their only outing. Aljamain tweeted, "A second sesh will always be on the line if the former champion decides to retire and make another comeback to the game. We're not really sure whether the UFC will let him come back so easily now, since he's already been suspended once because of EPOs. And the fact that he's in his late 30s now doesn't help either. We also think about 280 a lot, since he dislocated his shoulder so early on in the fight. How would have things played out if that wasn't the case? Would Aljamain still be the champion today? I guess we'll never know. But yeah, there's something going on here that we don't know about. Why else would everyone be talking about the USADA testing pool? Moving on, pulling off another McGregor. There's a lot of discussion going on right now about the legitimacy of Lieutenant Dan's retirement. A lot of fighters and MMA journalists are claiming he's about to pull off another McGregor by announcing retirement and removing himself from the USADA testing pool. Since the doping agency has no authority to test a fighter if they're no longer active at the promotion, TJ can take anything he wants to have a speedy recovery. Because if he's telling the truth about dislocating his shoulder like 20 times before UFC 280, there's obviously something seriously wrong. Dislocated shoulders are pretty common in the fight game, but if it's popping out every time he puts pressure on it or something, then yeah, there's something messed up. And if he lets it take the natural course of recovery, he'd probably have to call it quits for good and officially retire from the game. But if he exits the USADA pool for a couple of months, takes some performance enhancers to heal quicker and better, it'll never show up on his record, since all of it will be out of his system by the time he gets tested again. No one is saying that's what he's doing, but a lot of big names in the fight world are suspecting it's about to become a really common practice, since Connor pulled it off with so much ease. He packed on muscle like a bodybuilder, and the USADA couldn't do anything about it. Maybe the former bantamweight champ also wants to do that. Following up, Ricky weighs in. Ariel Helwani is our go-to guy whenever there's something fishy going on in the fight world. When fans started hearing news about how Dillashaw had announced his retirement from MMA, no one believed it. There was no official statement from his team or the UFC either. And then Ariel shared a post on Twitter talking about how the promotion had just been notified of his retirement. And once it was legit, that's when fighters started talking about how he was about to evade USADA protocols and come back fully recovered a few months later. 10th ranked bantamweight fighter Ricky Simon thinks the only reason he's taking retirement is so he can take the juice and recover quicker. Honestly speaking, it's a really bold assumption, since all these guys are forgetting about something. Dana White. Would Dana even entertain the idea of Dillashaw coming back now, regardless of his recovery status? Say he's fit for fighting in a couple of months. Is there still anything left for him, especially when you consider how the division seems so caught up right now? You have Sugar Sean O'Malley chasing Marlon Vera, Sterling is on a long holiday, and Cejudo wants to make a comeback and fight for the title. Where do you fit TJ in all of this? If you ask us, we think it's a legitimate retirement. He's 36 years old now, and whether he wants to take this route is highly questionable. Up next, what does the Action Man have to say? Chris, the Action Man Curtis, also thinks Dillashaw is only retiring to exit the USADA pool and take steroids to heal quickly. We have no idea why everyone thinks he's going to do that. What if the man just wants to retire? Curtis shared a post on Twitter asking what the fans thought of TJ retiring only to excuse himself from the pool, take PEDs, and heal from a serious injury. Okay, even if that is the case, it's a serious injury for crying out loud. The man's shoulder is literally jelly right now, since it pops out like nothing. If healing from it requires him to take a banned substance, then retiring to do so isn't that bad. The only problem is if he intends to make a comeback, because then we agree with everything these guys have been saying. But if he doesn't plan on coming back, throwing shade at him like that is a bit uncalled for, to be honest. Curtis talked about how this is basically cheating and very unsportsmanlike, despite having no idea whether Dillashaw even plans on coming back. Like we said before, if he doesn't plan on competing again, then by all means, do what you gotta do to fix that shoulder. But if he does plan on making a sneaky comeback, it's unfair to the entire roster. And a lot of fighters are pushing the idea that if he's done it before, he'll do it again. And we totally get that, but we want to give him some leverage here. Last but not least, no disrespect. A lot of you are probably wondering why we keep saying he's pulling off another McGregor. We don't mean any disrespect to the former double champion, but the fact that the USADA had to take the main stage and clarify why they couldn't test him made things so much worse. Fighters now have a clear understanding that if they're no longer active, the doping agency has no authority whatsoever. They can do what they want, they can take what they want, and all that, but USADA has no authority to show up at their doorstep and test them. And when they're done with their recovery or shenanigans, all they have to do is tap into their old fan base, create sellability, and force the UFC to give them a fight.
So here we go, 25 minutes if needed. TJ Dillashaw, Cody Garbrandt, one of, if not the biggest UFC Bantamweight Championship fight this octagon has ever hosted. Well, Cody feels like he owes TJ something, at least for this title reign.
It's tougher than it sounds, but you also need to have a lot of star power to pull it off. A fighter can't just come back if no one wants to see them compete anymore, right? That's it from our side, folks. So what do you think? Is former Bantamweight champion TJ Dillashaw really trying to pull off another McGregor here? Let us know in the comments below. Remember, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos in the future. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.